look, it matters what you call a thing. Exquisite, a lover called me, exquisite. Whereas, well, if I were from your culture living in this country, said the man outside the 2004 Republican National Convention, I would put up with that for this country. Whereas I felt the need to clarify, you would put up with torture, you mean? And he proclaimed, yes. Whereas what is your life? Whereas years after they declare my mother's Abadan block probably destroyed, we walked by the villas, the faces of buildings torn off into dioramas and recorded it on a handheld camcorder. Whereas it could take as long as 16 seconds between the trigger pulled in Las Vegas and the Hellfire missile landing in Solmaz Sharif, after which they will ask, did we hit a child? No, a dog, they will answer themselves. Whereas the federal judge at the sentencing hearing said, I want to make sure I pronounce the defendant's name correctly. Whereas this lover would pronounce my name and call me exquisite and lay the floor lamp across the floor, softening even the light. Whereas the lover made my heat rise so that if heat sensors were trained on me, they could read my thermal shadow through the roof and through the wardrobe. Whereas it's not like walking to the grocery store here and seeing a dead body. It's not like that. It's Iraq, you know? It's Iraq. It's kind of like acceptable to see that there and not. It was kind of like seeing a dead dog or a dead cat lying. Whereas I thought if he would look at my exquisite face or my father's, he would reconsider. Whereas you mean I should be disappeared because of my family name? And he answered, yes, that's exactly what I mean, adding that his wife helped draft the Patriot Act. Whereas the federal judge wanted to be sure he was pronouncing the defendant's name correctly and said he had read all the exhibits, which included the letter I wrote to cast the defendant in a loving light. Whereas today we celebrate things like his transfer to a detention center closer to home. Whereas his son has moved across the country. Whereas I made nothing happen. Whereas ye know not what shall be on the morrow, for what is your life? It is even a thermal shadow. It appears so little and then vanishes from the screen. Whereas I cannot control my own heat, and it can take as long as 16 seconds between the trigger, the Hellfire missile, and a dog, they will answer themselves. Whereas a dog, they will say, now, therefore, let it matter what we call a thing. Let it be the exquisite face for at least 16 seconds. Let me look at you. Let me look at you in a light that takes years to get here. I want to thank you all for coming. I'm so moved to be here in the Bay where it started. So I will keep my thanks to a minimum because I might start doing this thing. But as Doug mentioned, the book Look deals in part with the U.S. Department of Defense's Dictionary of Military and Associated Terms, which is a dictionary that was designed to supplement standard English language dictionaries. So the words that exist in the dictionary are words that we use every day, and you'll be hearing them throughout the poems that I'll be reading. Most of the titles, for example, are terms from the dictionary as well, if you want to follow along. And I'll just get right to it. Deception story. Friends described my disposition as stoic, like a dead fish, an ex said. Distance is a funny drug, and used to make me a distressed person, one who cried in bedrooms and airports. Once I bawled so hard at the border that even the man with the stamps and holster said, don't cry, you'll be home soon. My distribution over the globe debated and set to quota. A nation can only handle so many of me. Ditching class, I break into my friend's dad's mansion and swim in the Beverly Hills pool in a borrowed t-shirt, a brief diversion. My body, breaking the chlorinated surface, makes it momentarily my house. My division of driveway gate and alarm codes, my dress-rehearsed doctrine of pool boys and ping pong, and water delivered on the backs of sequined sparklets trucks. Over here, Dolly, an agent will call out, then pat the hair at your hot black dome. After explaining what she will touch, backs of the hands at the breasts and buttocks, the hand goes inside my waistband and my heart goes dormant, a dead fish, the last female assist I decided to hit on. My life in the American dream is a downgrade, a mere draft of home. Correction, it satisfies as drag. It is snarling what I carve of it alone. Reaching Guantanamo. Letters that reach Guantanamo inmates are heavily redacted by the Joint Task Force. Dear Salim, love, are you well? Do they, you? I worry so much. Lately my hair, even my skin. The doctors tell me I believe them, it shouldn't. Please don't worry. In the yard and moths have gotten to your mother's. Remember, I've enclosed some, made this batch just for you. Please eat well. Why did you me to remarry? I told, and he couldn't, I would never. Love, I'm singing that you loved. Remember the line that went, I'm holding them just for you. Yours. Desired appreciation. Until now that I've reached my 30s, all my muse's poetry has been harmless, American and diplomatic. A learned helplessness is what psychologists call it, my docile, desired state. I've been largely well-behaved and gracious. I've learned the doctors learned of learned helplessness by shocking dogs. Eventually, we things give up. Am I grateful to be here? Someone eventually asks if I love this country. In between the helplessness, the agents, the nation must administer a bit of hope, must meet basic dietary needs, ensure by tube, by nose, by throat, by other orifice, must fist bump a janitor, must muss up some kid's hair and let him loose around the Oval Office. Click, click could be cameras, or the teeth of handcuffs closing to fix the arms overhead. There must be a doctor on hand to ensure the shoulders do not dislocate, and there must be Prince's raspberry beret. Click, click could be Morse code tapped out against a coffin wall to the neighboring coffin. Outside my window, the snow lights cobalt for a bit at dusk, and I am surprised every second of it. I had never seen the country like this. Somehow I can't say yes. This is a beautiful country. I have not cast my eyes over it before, that is, in this direction, is how John Brown put it when he looked out from the scaffold. I feel like I must muzzle myself, I told my psychiatrist. So you feel dangerous, she said. Yes. So you feel like a threat? Yes. Why was I so surprised to hear it? I want to read a few sections from a long elegy that I wrote an uncle who was a draftee in the Iran-Iraq War and was killed before I got a chance to meet him, before I was born. It's a longer poem called Personal Effects, and it's based largely on a Slim album that was found on his body and that he had with him, and also a Slim collection of letters that he had sent from the front lines. So I'll just read a couple sections, or a few sections from that. Daily I sit with the language they've made of our language to neutralize the capability of low dollar value items like you. You are what is referred to as a casualty. Unclear whether from a catalytic or frontal attack, unclear the final time you were addressed, thou beloved, it was for us a catastrophic event. Just destroyed. Died of wounds received in action. Yes, there was early warning. You said you were especially scared of mortar rounds. In execution planning, they weighed the losses, the sustainability, and budgeted for X number. They budgeted for the phone call to your mother and weighed that against the amount saved in rations and your taste for cigarettes and the tea you poured your boys and the tea you would have poured me approaching hello. The change you collected in jars jumping a bit as the family learns to slam the home's various doors. How could she say the things she does not know? A poison-tipped arrow, she told classmates at recess, to the neck, hollow whistle of it launched from a blowgun cutting the air between them. According to most definitions, I have never been at war. According to mine, most of my life spent there. Anthrax and salt and pepper shakers, patrol car windshields with crosshairs painted over them, some badge, holding my father's pocket contents up to him and asking where the cash is from. The war in Iraq, I read, is over now. The last wheels gathering into themselves as they lift off the sad tarmac. I say, begin. I say, end. And you are to believe this is what happens. I say, chew 40 times before swallowing slime, and you go home to mother, press a dog tag to your temple, press a gun to that, the tag flowering into your skull. Thank God for all-weather floor mats and the slope of my personal driveway, and beer cans that change color to let me know they are cold enough, the full-sized cab smelling of iron and Axe body spray. In 2003, a man held a fistful of blood and brains to a PBS camera and yelled, "Is this the freedom they want for us?" It was from his friend's head. They were marching as they figured Americans do. Between them, hardly 3 horsepower, and still we shot him. We say the war is over, but still the woman leans across the passenger seat. My son, I wasn't there, so I can't know, can I? His mother's bed. A grief we don't attempt to console. I killed him, she'll tell me years later. Fuck celestial guidance. I killed him, she'll say. In the midst of civil affairs, he surprises. He arrives, eyes taped shut, torso held together by black thread, fridge cold. Grief is a closed area, cluttered with his fork against the plate and other forgotten musics. The enlarged ID photo above her mantle means I can know Amu, my dear collateral damage, as only a state or a school might do. He was, we hope, moved. Moved, but we will have to guess by what. Shampoo in her wet hair, salty and fried breads, the chase scene in Bullet, sangak fresh from the oven dampening the newspaper on the walk home from the baker's, the arms of someone who smells nice to him in the morning, the mouth of someone laced with bergamot or cardamom, who dances in the kitchen and lets whatever's on the stove burn, who burns for him, and beside him they burned, they boiled, they fell, shortly after a loud sound that makes him piss himself. Being nice to others, loose change, chess. He could beat all the brothers in chess. He was moved like that across a minefield, moved by a hand we cannot see, a hand that is all our hands combined. I think I'll read one more.
2 more. Even 3.
No. Mess hall. Your knives tip down in the dish rack of the replica plantation home. You wash hands with soaps pressed into seahorses and scallop shells, white to match your guest towels, and, like an escargot fork, America, you have found the dimensions small enough to break a man. A wet rag, a bullet like a bishop or an armless knight of the Ku Klux Klan, a silhouette through your nighttime window. A quartet plays a song you admire outside a ring of concertina wire circles around a small collapse. America, ignore the window and look at your lap. Even your dinner napkins are on fire. Thank you.